At the beginning of the 13th century, Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes and swept across the Eurasian steppes, conquering territory after territory. His campaigns were so destructive that cities were razed, populations annihilated, and entire tribes erased from history. Turkish societies also suffered greatly from this devastation. This power that shook Asia crushed Turks and Muslims on a massive scale. However, with Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the vast empire was divided among his sons and grandsons. The Mongols, seemingly unstoppable, now advanced under the leadership of the Ilkhanids. They ravaged Anatolia and then turned their gaze toward the heart of the Middle East. In 1258, Hulagu Khan captured Baghdad, bringing an end to the Abbasid Caliphate. The city, a center of Islamic learning and culture, experienced one of the greatest destructions in history under the thunder of Mongol hooves. After the fall of Baghdad, the Mongols pushed further west. In Syria stood the weakened Ayyubid principalities, while in Egypt ruled the Mamluk Turks, who had overthrown the Ayyubids in 1250. Aleppo and Damascus soon fell to the Mongols. The ruler of Damascus, al-Malik al-Salih, appealed to Sultan Mansur Ali of Egypt for help against the approaching danger. But the inexperienced sultan was deposed in 1259, and power passed to the capable commander Saif al-Din Qutuz. At that moment, Hulagu Khan sent envoys to Qutuz demanding surrender. The Sultan's response became legendary. The envoys were executed, and their heads were hung on the walls of Cairo. It was an unmistakable declaration of war. Qutuz first issued a call to arms as the protector of the Holy Lands. Then, in July 1260, he sent one of his most powerful commanders, Baybars, to Gaza. When the Mongol commander failed to receive the expected reinforcements against Baybars, he abandoned Gaza and withdrew. Meanwhile, Hulagu Khan was assembling a massive army to march on Egypt and then advance into Africa. But just as he was about to move west, news arrived from Karakorum. The great Khan, Munke, had died. A succession struggle was imminent. Hoping to claim the throne, Hulagu Khan withdrew with most of his army to Central Asia, leaving the forces in Syria under the command of the Turkic general Ketboa, believed to be of Christian origin. On the Mamluk side, the troops that had pushed the enemy back near Gaza were now fully prepared for war. In the scorching heat of August, Sultan Qutuz departed Cairo with his army. Along the way, some emirs, gripped by fear, wanted to turn back. At that moment, Qutuz's voice rose like a sword cutting through the silence of the desert. "You have lived for years on the wealth of the house of God. Now you cannot flee from battle. Whoever runs today, how will he face God tomorrow?" These words ignited the army. Fear gave way to determination. Qutuz arrived in Gaza with eyes full of resolve and fury. There, he sent a letter to the Latin commanders in Acre, the center of Crusader power in the region, requesting permission to pass through their lands to fight the Mongols. He emphasized that this passage was solely to save the Islamic world and warned them, "We are not your enemy, but whoever stands in our way will lose his head. Allow our passage, or the storm will engulf you as well." The Crusaders in Acre accepted Sultan Qutuz's request and even promised to remain neutral in the coming struggle. Securing the route, the Mamluk army advanced along the coast toward Acre and then turned inland toward the valley of Ain Jalut. According to the Old Testament, this was where David defeated Goliath, a valley that had become a decisive point of fate throughout history. When the Mongol commander Ketboa learned that the Turkic army was approaching, he ignored his advisors' calls to wait for reinforcements. His pride was immense. He believed the enemy had to be crushed immediately. With a force of around 10,000 men, mostly Armenians and Georgians, he marched rapidly to the area. The Mamluk army, according to various sources, numbered between 20,000 and 24,000. Ketboa formed his battle lines. As usual, the core of the Mongol army consisted of heavy archers and cavalry employing the crescent tactic.
He was so confident that he didn't even bother to study the terrain of the valley. Sultan Qutuz divided his army in two. The vanguard, the unit that would make first contact with the enemy, was placed under Baybars' command. The main force was hidden deeper within the valley, waiting for the right moment. On the morning of September 3rd, Baybars led the vanguard in an attack on Qutuz's order. After a brief clash, Baybars began to retreat according to plan. The goal was clear: lure the Mongols into the narrow, rocky valley. Believing that this was the full strength of the Mamluks, Ketboa charged forward in fury to annihilate the enemy. His army rushed into the valley, where their horses' mobility was restricted, and at that moment, the trap was sprung. The Mongol army poured into the valley like rats. If you enjoyed our video, we kindly ask you to leave a like and subscribe. From both sides of the valley, Mamluk cavalry and archers suddenly appeared. Arrows rained down, throwing the Mongols into chaos. The Mamluks also used small explosive devices, new for the era, which completely disrupted Mongol formations. In the confusion, Baybars, who had feigned retreat, suddenly changed direction and struck the Mongol flank. The encirclement was complete. The fate of the battle was sealed. At the height of the fighting, Sultan Qutuz tore off his helmet, threw it to the ground, and charged to the front of the army, shouting, "O Mamluk army, the help of God is near." This act electrified the soldiers. Mamluk cavalry smashed through the Mongol ranks. Ketboa's army began to collapse. Soon, Mongol forces were in full retreat. Ketboa refused to flee, was surrounded, and was killed by a Mamluk cavalryman. For the first time, the army believed to be invincible on the steppes had suffered such a defeat. It went into history as the Mongols' first major rout. After the victory, Baybars was tasked with pursuing the fleeing Mongols. As he returned to Cairo via Damascus, he was hailed as the savior of the Islamic world. However, when Qutuz failed to keep his promise to grant Baybars the governorship of Aleppo, Baybars assassinated Qutuz on October 23rd and ascended the throne according to Mamluk tradition. The Ilkhanids sought revenge, but due to internal turmoil, could send only a force of 6,000 men. This army was defeated by the Mamluks near Homs in December 1260, completely ending Mongol hopes of reaching Egypt. Nevertheless, the Mamluk-Ilkhanid struggle continued in various wars over the following years. After the defeat at Koseda in 1243, the Anatolian Seljuk state quickly fell under Mongol suzerainty. No decision could be made without Ilkhanid approval. Even sultans and viziers were appointed by the Mongols. Pressure on the Turkish population increased, and every rebellion was brutally crushed. One of those who opposed this situation was Sultan Izz al-Din Qutuz. He sought help from Baybars, who had defeated the Mongols at Ain Jalut, offering lands in Anatolia in return. Baybars viewed the proposal favorably, but when the Mongols learned of the plan, they sent an army to Konya and punished the Seljuks. Qutuz soon abdicated and fled to Byzantium. After his flight, his brother Qayqusra IV ascended the Seljuk throne. The vizier, Perwane, who took him under his control, ruled the state at will. After disputes, Perwane had Qayqusra IV eliminated with Mongol approval and placed the young Ghiyath al-Din Qayqusra on the throne, governing in his name while strengthening his position through gifts and bribes to the Mongols. Despite periods of relative calm, tensions grew as Abaka Khan sought to rule Anatolia directly through his own commanders. To protect his position, Perwane secretly contacted Baybars, requesting a campaign into Anatolia. Baybars accepted and prepared a major expedition. What followed was a complex series of battles, betrayals, and shifting alliances, culminating in major clashes such as Elbistan and later battles in Syria, including Homs and Wadi al-Khaznadar. Sometimes the Mamluks prevailed, other times the Ilkhanids gained the upper hand. Ultimately, after decades of warfare, the Mongols withdrew completely from Syria by 1320, bringing the Ilkhanid Mamluk rivalry in the region to an end. So what do you think? If the Mamluks had not stood against them, would the Mongols have conquered Egypt?